Welcome to our presentation on team leadership. This Pecha-Kucha is brought to you by Scott Cooper, Shannon Matlovsky, Jonathan Page, and Mike Stegen. In this presentation, we'll explain what we mean by teams and why it's an important topic. We'll discuss the different ways in which leaders can support their teams, both internally and externally. And finally, we'll explore the 8 characteristics of effective teams. First, what is a team? A team is made up of members who share a goal, are dependent on each other, and who have to coordinate to achieve that goal. It's important to note that while teams can be more or less hierarchical, research shows that teams with more distributed responsibility are more healthy and productive. Teams are increasingly important because they allow organizations to respond quickly to rapidly changing, complex environments. They can also produce a variety of positive outcomes, including greater efficiency, increased productivity, higher quality work, and increased innovation. But teams aren't always effective and won't be successful in all environments. In order for them to work, there are a few enabling conditions that must be in place. If you can answer yes to these questions, then making use of teams in your organization might make sense. In the Hill model for team leadership, there is lateral decision-making in which team members step forward and step back, while a team leader monitors for effectiveness and intervenes only as needed. The Hill model defines team effectiveness to include 2 internal factors: performance, or task accomplishment, and development, or team health. Leaders monitor both of these internal areas and intervene as needed. The Hill model also describes ways in which team leaders should monitor the external environment and intervene as needed, such as by advocating for the team, negotiating additional support, or buffering the team from external conflict. So in the Hill model, team leaders are constantly scanning these 3 arenas to see what interventions may be needed and then acting as necessary. The framework helps them understand when to act and what kind of intervention is needed. But what makes for an effective team? How do team leaders know what to look out for, when to intervene, and what to aim for? Next, we'll look at 8 characteristics of effective teams divided up into the 3 arenas mentioned before. First, in order to be effective, a team must be productive, which simply means that it must be good at completing tasks and producing results. In order to be productive, a team must have a clear, ambitious goal, have a results-oriented structure, and have standards of excellence. Secondly, in order to be effective, a team must also be healthy, which means that it is running smoothly. In order to be healthy, a team must have a collaborative climate, have competent team members, and share a unified commitment. Finally, in order to be effective, a team must also have support, which includes having principled leadership and having external support and recognition. Taken together, these are the 8 characteristics of an effective team according to the Hill model. Team leaders should constantly be monitoring the team and intervening as necessary to ensure these elements are present. To summarize what the Hill model tells us about team leadership, let's look at the 3 critical leadership decisions. These are the 3 questions leaders should ask themselves in order to determine when to intervene and what kind of intervention is necessary. Leaders should constantly be diagnosing their teams to identify any group deficiencies and monitoring the outside environment for any threats. They should then ask themselves if and when their intervention is needed. That's the first question. When should I move from monitoring to intervention? If intervention is needed, The second question a team leader should ask is whether the needed intervention is about team productivity or about team health. In other words, is the team's need for intervention primarily about task accomplishment or primarily about internal relationships? Third, team leaders need to ask whether they need to intervene internally, or does the problem lie primarily in the external environment? Having asked these three diagnostic questions, leaders can determine when and how to intervene. Finally, let's look at how this team leadership model is viewed by supporters and critics. Strengths of the model include that it is highly practical, that it distributes leadership work across team members, and that it provides opportunities for team members based on their skills. Weaknesses of the Hill model have been noted as a lack of complexity, failing to provide enough guidance and direction for leaders, and that it makes too many assumptions about the skills of leaders and their teams. In our increasingly complex world, organizations are relying more and more on teams. This model provides a useful framework for those leading teams and offers good guidance for making them more effective.